What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the after credits scene. We are talking episode 6 of She-Hulk. Before we get started, please like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so when we drop new content, you'll be the first one to know about it. And if you're only here for the Easter eggs, and there were a lot of them this week, check the description below and hit the jump button so you can go right past the breakdown and straight into those Easter eggs. Otherwise, let's get right into it. I gotta be honest, when I first started this episode, I didn't feel great about it. My predictions for this episode, I already kind of thought, okay, we're gonna get a wedding episode, or we're gonna get some other kind of filler setup to get us to Daredevil, to get us to something else. There's a whole lot of Abomination footage they haven't shown that's been in the trailers. There's a whole lot of things that hadn't happened yet, and when Jen starts opening up the box for the wedding invites and all the little notes and stuff, I actually wrote the note, this feels like a setup for a standalone episode. And then Jen breaks the fourth wall, looks in the camera and says, it kind of feels like a standalone episode, doesn't it? And made the crack about how weddings always kind of feel that way. So they had me hooked back in from that moment. The show's very self-aware. That means the writing is actually really good. Even though, and this was a better episode than last episode because some things actually happened, but it still didn't give us some of the things that we needed to really progress the story forward in a meaningful way. Now, as far as Jen's story and her coming to grips with who she is and all the things that they kind of put in play at the beginning of episode 1, they're still staying pretty true to that, so that's great. But we're 6 episodes in, and we just now got some kind of superhero fight. We just now got some kind of idea that somebody's coming for Jen, and it was very, very small. So I'm not necessarily complaining. I'm still enjoying the show. It was really funny this episode, and they blended it really well. So the writing, the directing is actually still really good. But if I had a critique about it, it would be to maybe expand the episodes so you have 35, 40-minute episodes, shorten the run to 7 episodes, and let's get there quicker so you can piece some of that stuff in there. Other than that, the idea at the wedding that, up until now, Jen has encountered people that have said, okay, why haven't you turned into She-Hulk? And she just wants to be Jen, and so she turns into She-Hulk for other people. This was kind of flipping that on its head. She shows up at the wedding, and the bride says, I don't want you one-upping me on my big day, so could you please not be She-Hulk? I mean, she's just got this outfit. She's confident in who she is, and she fits in her clothes finally, and somebody tells her to not be herself. So that fit really well. And also the introduction of the relationship with her and Josh, her actually meeting somebody that liked both versions of her, was really endearing. The introduction of Titania into it, the little tease that we kind of already knew was coming, that Titania somehow has some kind of special strength powers or something going on there, she tips her hand there, and she's definitely wanting She-Hulk to come out, and that was a big part of that encounter. Couple that with some things that happened at the end that we'll talk about here in just a second, and you kind of have a much better idea where all this is going. Again, I did like that they leaned into that it was a self-contained kind of episode, but there were still threads that this was going someplace. The B story here with Mr. Immortal is where we got a lot of our Easter eggs, and we'll get to those here in just a second, but the Mr. Immortal character was really funny. Mallory getting a chance as a lawyer to have her interactions there was really a nice pairing again of different characters, and then the introduction of another type of enhanced individual. I don't know what you want to call him, not necessarily a hero, but of Mr. Immortal there, Craig Hollis, or whatever his name may be, being introduced there, and all of his wives being paraded in front of him, and that whole interaction was really, really funny. Just wrapping up the breakdown of the episode real quick, the only thing that it was the first time that I did not like the CG. I've been a real advocate and optimist about the CG in these shows, but when Jen turns into She-Hulk at the wedding, the CG started out real great. She tries to turn into Hulk. You see her veins kind of pop out, and then she doesn't. And then when she finally does turn into She-Hulk and you see her, the lighting wasn't really that great. When she's walking and she's breaking the concrete, it was very choppy, and some of her movements. And so, I mean, I'm having a nitpick to find something wrong there, but it was still a fun scene. It was still funny, and it played really well. DJ Ched, or the Incredible Hulk, was a funny little addition to that as well. And so all the little things that they added in there were a whole lot of fun, and really, it still made the episode interesting. At the end, we get this rogue lab, this group that I'm assuming is somehow connected to Titania here, definitely connected to the Intelligentsia network that we'll talk about in the Easter eggs. But at most, they're communicating, this organization or these group of people who are trying to get to Jen to get her blood are communicating through that Intelligentsia website. And the Wrecking Crew people are definitely connected to that as well. The previously on segment at the beginning of the episode really set up a lot of that. They went back through Thunderball. I think we're going to figure out who that is. My guess is it's probably the character played by John Bass, one of the dates that ends up showing up in the last episode, standing next to Mallory, and he's drinking the water out of a bottle with a straw. That guy, I'm guessing, is somehow, maybe he's part of the Wrecking Crew as well. One guy had a mask on, and they name him again. So him, the Intelligentsia, the Gamma Lab, the Titania and her powers, I think all those things are connected somehow, and we're barreling towards people making another attempt on Jen's life, and maybe that's how Daredevil pops up. But we're going to have to get some explanation of who Daredevil is. I'm still not convinced that he comes in the next episode, but we're gonna have to talk about that during our prediction video. So overall, a fun episode. Even though it took a little detour, it still stayed true to some of the main themes of the show, and it had some levity, and then it led into some stuff for the back half of the season of the series. So episodes 7, 8, and 9. Right now, I'm going to guess that episodes 7, 8, and 9 are going to be the best episodes of the series. And behind that will be episodes 1, 2, and 3. And then 4, 5, and 6 are going to be the weakest entries in the series because there was a lot of filler. And they own up to it, but it's still a funny show. So into the Easter eggs. First off, the QR code can be found on the security car when Craig Hollis falls to his death and he crushes the car. The QR code, which is a treasure trove of Easter eggs this week, takes you to a Marvel comic that is a West Coast Avengers comic, and it features the Great Lakes Avengers, who are made up of Flatman, who looks a lot like Mr. Fantastic, Doorman, who looks like a blacked out version of Spider-Man with a cape. There is Mr. Immortal and a pink flying lady that I want to say Darla. Anyway, I've forgotten it. It's flown out of my head. But several different characters there, including Mr. Immortal, who is a much younger version in this comic book. And he has interactions in the Great Lakes area in Milwaukee, and they're fighting crime and doing some things there. And there's also an appearance of U.S. Agent in this comic book as well. So just some interesting connections of characters there, an interesting amalgamation. But there's a conversation in the comic book where Mr. Immortal talks about getting a divorce, and a woman shows up at his hotel room, and they have a whole big thing about it. It's pretty entertaining. So some throwbacks there and some connections to the current episode. Also, the Intelligentsia name drop. In the show, they're using it as some kind of fascist kind of underground website type thing. But in the Marvel universe, It is a group of some of the smartest men, sinister minds of their day and time, and it includes MODOK, who we are going to get to see in Ant-Man Quantumania, and the leader, who was just announced coming out in Captain America New World Order, who is played by Tim Blake Nelson, who was in The Incredible Hulk, and at the end there he played Samuel Stearns, and you see him get some of Bruce Banner's blood into him, and he's going to become the leader, the supreme leader, or the leader, and he is part of this intelligentsia group, including Red Hulk. So in the comics, it's Thunderbolt Ross who becomes Red Hulk. Guessing they're going to have to do something different there, or they're just not going to have to show you Ross because William Hurt passed away. And so, but these characters are together, and that intelligentsia drop, I think, definitely meant a little bit of something, but it was interesting to see nonetheless, and it may have just been a flash in the pan. The other interesting reference was when Craig, Mr. Immortal, is talking to all of his ex-wives, and he's talking about how long he would live, and that he would outlive these things, and all the different people that he's been with, and he name drops one of his old wives named Baroness Cromwell, and a quick internet search would tell you that Baroness Cromwell is also known as Baroness Blood, and is connected with Dracula and that whole universe, and some of the Blade references, and there's all kind of crossovers there with some of those things. And so that was an interesting little name drop, and all these little pieces, even if they don't ever use them in a She-Hulk reference, they're letting you know that they're coming. They're part of this world, and there's all these other things out there. Even if they're variants or it's just a flash in the pan type thing, they're out there. And I thought it was really fun that they used those things to make a more compelling story. And it'll be something later on that you can go back and go, oh, hey, they mentioned that there, or they mentioned that here, or this person, that person. And it was just fun to see. The bent needle at the end in the lab is from episode 2 or 3, where the Wrecking Crew tries to get Jen's blood, and they're unable to do so because, as She-Hulk, her skin is impenetrable. And then you see that they're putting another needle on. They're going to try it again, presumably with a much larger needle, a different needle. It looked to be upgraded somehow. So we'll see how that goes. Other than that, there were some wrap-up things. There was no after-credit scene, but the pictures at the end during the credits have kind of served as kind of extra story. We got an extra picture of Titania getting her veneers redone. We got an extra picture of Craig giving his 20 seconds of eye contact and his apology to his ex-wife Amy. And so you got a few extra little shots there that were a little humorous, and just kind of little additions to the show. So curious to see what you guys thought. Still really enjoying the show. I think the writing is still spot on, which lets me know I think we're in good hands from here on out, but I think our best episodes are still ahead of us. We still have some footage from the trailers that we haven't seen in the show, particularly a fight with Titania inside of some yoga retreat or some kind of self-help thing with Blonsky, who is looks like Abomination again. So that could be coming in episode 7. That could be coming in episode 8. If I had to guess, I would say episode 7, and then episode 8 is going to be our Daredevil episode. Episode 9 is going to be some kind of tied all together in a nice bow. So who knows, but I'm curious to see what you guys think. Like and subscribe to the channel. Help us get to 200 subscribers. Share this thing all across the multiverse, and check out some of our other content over here. You know, we got a whole lot of other stuff you can sink your teeth into. And as always, when the next one drops, we'll catch you right back here. Later.